Well, for reaction to this and more, let's bring in the official opposition leader. Andrew Scheer is here in the studio with me. Welcome back.
Thanks
Long
for
summer. I just quickly want to get the story of the day out of the way. This notwithstanding clause being used by Doug Ford. Where's the federal conservatives on the use of this particular clause?
Well, you know, we support the charter in its entirety, and it's quite clear that municipalities fall under provincial jurisdiction, and that Premier Ford is within his rights to make this decision. And ultimately, the fact that he's an elected official means that the people of Ontario will have the final say on this.
Okay, you don't worry that this could become a routine, then other premiers might use it, or Ford says he's going to use it over and over again?
It's in the charter, and it is one of those checks and balances that are in our Constitution to balance off the executive and the legislative and the judicial, and it's there, and as I said, it's up to each premier or each head of government to decide, when things get to that point. But at the end of the day, he's well within his rights. Nobody supposes that somehow municipalities, and especially the administration of municipalities, aren't under the administrative control of the provincial government.
But you don't think he's using a constitutional sledgehammer to hit a thumbtack, then, do you?
Well, it's as I said, Doug Ford has outlined the problem. He has proposed his solution to it, and the charter ultimately gives the people of the province of Ontario the final say when it comes to the election, and so we'll see what happens.
Let's talk about this conflict of interest finding. You screamed for this probe. You got the finding that you expected you'd get. How serious do you think this is in the grand scheme of things? I mean, there's been a number of ethical lapses by this government. How does this stack up?
Well, there's a couple things here. First of all is the fact that this is now part of a pretty well-entrenched pattern. This isn't the first minister that has been found to decide that he would interpret the rules himself.
Well, not to mention the Prime Minister.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it starts with the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister has really set the tone, and now we can see it being baked in, that if you get into trouble, if you interpret your own rules and to your benefit, then nothing really happens. There's no consequences to Bill Morneau. Prime Minister didn't apply any consequences to himself, and so we don't expect any in this case, and that's really troubling. It's really too bad, and it's so unfortunate that we now have a government where this has become part of a pattern. But if we look at this incident in and of itself, this company that was given this lucrative quota. A decision by the government had strong ties to the Liberal Party. The brother of a sitting MP was in a partnership relationship with the company. A former Liberal MP is involved as well, and of course the family member to Minister LeBlanc. So there's obviously a lot going on here, and we've been raising the alarm bell for months. And we were met with accusations of insensitivity. We were subject to insults for even bringing up these questions. So we're validated today. We're right to have the concerns, and a Conservative government in 2019 would absolutely do things differently.
I mean, it's not a mitigating circumstance that his wife had 60 cousins and that the license was revoked and pulled back. These aren't mitigating circumstances.
Well, keep in mind that the new process that the government undertook only happened after we raised these objections. It wasn't as if they had somehow seen the errors of the way. True. We put a lot of pressure on them. Secondly, I don't believe that anyone who fought to get the conflict of interest laws in, or for commissioners of conflicts of interest and ethics, believe that it's a good thing to let MPs or members of cabinet define for themselves what the rules are. And for someone to say, well, I'm going to read this definition this way. The conflict of interest commissioner and the ethics commissioner meets with MPs and says, check with me first, talk to me first. It's very simple. It's not supposed to be left up to individual cabinet ministers to decide if the rules apply to them or not. And that's what we've seen with this Liberal government, a consistent pattern of them deciding that the rules don't apply to them.
Yeah, and this relative of LeBlanc's actually consulted with the minister on this, so it's not like there was a shield between the two.
Exactly.
I want to quickly get your thoughts on our friends at the Globe and Mail have come up with some interesting stats on immigration patterns. This asylum seeking that's coming into the Quebec from the United States. The numbers are way up. There's only about a 50% acceptance rate going down, but there's very few deportations. What's your concern, and what could be done about it to stop it now as opposed to 5 years from now?
Well, we've outlined some proposals that the government could consider to stop it. They've rejected it, and then we find out that they've actually had conversation about. So one is proposing the idea of changing the third party, safe third country agreement to prevent this type of thing from happening. On the one, sometimes they dismiss it, and then on the other hand, we find out that they've actually analyzed that as an option. But what we've been saying for well over a year is that there are consequences to the failure of Justin Trudeau to manage this situation. And the consequences are those who are facing danger in dangerous places, people in refugee camps, fleeing war-torn countries, now have to wait longer. That the applications of refugees who are trying to come through the process legally is now going to take longer. Right. That was dismissed out of hand. And again, you'll remember the minister accusing the Ontario minister of being un-Canadian for even asking these types of questions. So again, you can tell the Liberals losing a debate when they pull out the insult card. And we have again been validated that our concerns are well-founded and that the Liberals weren't telling the truth the entire time. They were telling Canadians that the influx of over 20, almost 30,000 illegal migrants has had no effect on the immigration system, no effect on the refugee system. And today we find out that the data shows we were right.
You spent a lot of the summer, I assume, listening to a lot of people out there in the real world, outside the bubble here. Is this resonating, and what other issues are resonating that you're going to bring to the floor of the House of Commons starting Monday?
This is absolutely resonating, and I meet a lot with cultural communities throughout the GTA, Vancouver, Montreal, and they've noticed an impact on wait times for the processing of applications for their family members. And so their concern is that they have brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers who they're trying to bring over legally, and they don't like the fact that our system now has got to the point where the government has no ability, or at least has proposed no plan to deal with the illegal border crossings. That's absolutely resonating. Of course, Justin Trudeau's failures on Trans Mountain has also resonated across the country, not just in Western Canada, but in Ontario, where there are a lot of manufacturing jobs dependent on it, as well as in BC. And so we're going to be holding the government to account on that as well.
Okay. Be a fun time. Lots of fireworks going off.
I heard it's your birthday,
so not talk
I didn't
about
bring
that.
anything, but I did pick this up in the makeup room. I thought you could use another one of these at home.
Just what I've always wanted. How did you know? All right, Andrew Scheer, thanks for stopping by. It made my day.
Thank you very much.